people of New Orleans and the WBOK listening audience. As you guys have heard from our team here at WBOK, we're having some interesting technical issues, and actually, it's going to make it fine that we've got a great group here with us today to talk about housing issues and what it means to put housing first. So we have four guests today, or three guests, including me. So number one, without any further ado, good afternoon, New Orleans, and welcome to Put Housing First. I'm your host, Andronika Morris, and we are here on this gorgeous Tuesday afternoon to talk about what it means to put people first and to put housing first. I'm Andronika Morris. I'm your host. We're so excited to be here with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Beyond the technical issues, Xavier University affords us here at WBOK 1230 AM a fantastic avenue to do the show and to be in partnership with WBOK. But it is not without its challenges, especially when the students are in school. There's construction going on, as there always is at Xavier, right?
Gratefully,
yeah, that's right.
improving.
I feel like the neighbors sometimes when they start talking about the parking situation. And so we have had the technical issues, and we also have our fourth guest, our third guest, who is trying to find parking without running the risk of helping to contribute to the city's growing financial crisis via a parking ticket.
I might have done that.
But we're gonna get started, and we're gonna introduce our guests in the room, both of whom are longtime contributors and have been on the show before. And we wanted them all in person because all of our energy is really good and interesting, but it's hard to manage folks on the phone, right? With this kind of energy, right? So first up, Asali Ecclesiastes, CEO of Ashe Cultural Arts Center. Asali, welcome back.
Thank you. So good to be here and with the folks and with the students.
Okay, and thank you, and Xavier alumni.
Hey.
XU rocks the house.
Hello.
And along with our other guest, Fred Johnson, the first two guests on the Put Housing First show when we started this show almost 3 years ago now.
Wow.
Nicole Barnes, Executive Director, Jericho Road Episcopal Housing Initiative.
That's right.
Thank you
for having me.
Thank you for being here with us, Nicole. So, oh wait, here comes Fred, just in time.
Hey. Talk about energy.
Woohoo, Fred.
Hey, Fred, thank you for joining us. Come on in and say hello. Your mic is hot.
Watch your mouth.
Yeah.
Watch your
Okay,
mouth,
there's the
you.
share this one. Okay.
What you say? That's 2 days in a row, Baba. Yes, you are.
And we started already, Fred. So, Fred, you just came in a perfect moment. Asali and Nicole have introduced themselves or said hello. I've introduced you all actually. And so Fred Johnson, Executive Director of Neighborhood Development Foundation. Fred, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we're here today to talk about a lot of things that are going on, especially when we talk about putting housing first, especially in light of this election that's happening right now. So we want to talk about what's on the ballot, but we also want to talk about how it connects to the other process that's happening, the budget process. And the budget process is particularly momentous this year. There are risks and threats on the ballot for the budget process and opportunities, right? One would argue, but there's also an attempt to undermine some initiative that we were all pretty passionate about, the Housing Trust Fund, and the fact that and getting the funds dedicated for it. So, Nicole, why don't you remind everybody about the Housing Trust Fund history, particularly the original funding source that we had for a while.
So the original funding source that we had was the NIF fund, that was actually authorized back in the 90s, a really long time ago. For not so much for the rest of us who are pretty old right now, but
Speak for
at the,
yourself.
at the at the start of my career, actually. At the start of my career, and it was a real opportunity for the city of New Orleans to put forth its own funds to help with the housing issues in our city. It served as our federal grant match that we needed to be able to come up with to match the federal funds that we were getting from HUD. It also helped though with the things that HUD doesn't cover because of their regulations. So you had a flexibility with the NIF fund to do the things that people always talk about that we really needed. Like, for example, everybody remembers the paint program where you could help to get your house painted. And then, anyone who lives in an old house in New Orleans knows how much it costs to get a house painted. And so we had a program every year that was a lottery program that helped low income seniors and disabled people to be able to get their homes painted. That money came from the NIF because you could not do that with traditional HUD funds because of the environmental clearances that are required and all of the rest of the red tape that goes along with federal funds. We were able to use the NIF funds to plug holes in different projects or budgets that we had, to do just non-traditional things like to do roof repairs for folks, to go into neighborhoods and work in low to moderate income neighborhoods where people own their homes but could not make those repairs. All the things that make our quality of life in New Orleans better, we could do with those funds, and it was very little. I mean, we got like maybe $4 million a year was from a property tax assessment, and there was a lack of support for the reauthorization of the NIF, and then frankly, for citizens of New Orleans, we just could not take with the rising cost of property taxes and property insurance. People just could not take, the increase. Wouldn't have been an increase. It would have been a continuation.
Right.
But also
of the
how they
property tax.
started using the NIF. Remember?
Well,
they stopped using it for stuff like what you're talking about to help people and started using it to punish people. They started using it to get more lawyers on the streets for code enforcement and stuff.
that is absolutely correct. So of course it's something that started out to be something wonderful for the people of New Orleans became a tool or a weapon, I should say, in terms of punishing the people of New Orleans, in terms of the politics.
Right.
So long story short, the NIF did not get reauthorized. While everyone said that, and I'm using air quotes, said that they supported it, not one politician lifted a single finger or raised their voices to support the NIF.
Right. That's right.
And it ended up not passing. It's still barely
less than 1,000
lost.
votes. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's ended up not passing. So we fast forward to the Housing Trust Fund, looking back at lessons learned, looking at a way to really do this so that we could avoid the trappings of politics, which punishes people rather than help them,
Right. Right. That's right.
and provides the opportunity that folks need desperately in the times that we're in. And so, last November, the people of New Orleans who desperately need this help overwhelmingly voted
Yes, we did.
75% to authorize the Housing Trust Fund. And I will dare say that 75% was more than anyone who just recently got elected was
any
able to
other.
manage. So, I mean, because it is the primary thing that is driving everybody today. We talk about the population loss. We talk about what's happening to our culture. We're talking about the people who make New Orleans not being able to stay here. And it's whether it's homeowners, renters, churches, schools, businesses, we're all affected. And we need to be focusing on how we help our citizenry. Our citizenry has spoken.
Well,
They-
that's what I was about to say. We decided. The people have said this is what they wanted, and now.
So a couple things that we don't want to jump ahead. Well, let's talk about the next step, right? So, part of what happened was the part of the design to persuade people around this. There was a lot of distrust, right? There was a lot of concern about the fact that money had been appropriated time and time again for housing, and it didn't go where it was supposed to do, where it's supposed to. And part of the reason folks overwhelmingly supported it was a plan was laid out that wouldn't just blindly trust.
Right.
That there would be an advisory committee, those meetings would be public, There would be data presented. There would be information shared. That process has been ongoing for the last several months. The advisory committee was assembled. It met the minimum times it was supposed to meet, and it's made its recommendations. While that was happening, our leaders came up with another fast one on July 29th. Gilbert Montano, former CEO of the city of New Orleans, presented to the city of these bond propositions. And one of them was Prop 1 that's on the ballot right now that would seek to replace the dedicated revenue with borrowed dollars. And it would do so for 3 years. So it would eliminate the need for the city to use its own money to fund the trust fund. We would go out and borrow money to cover that amount for 3 years. That's why it's $45 million. It's supposed to be 15 years for 3 years, because at that point, despite what our council members would have you believe, the administration was giving somewhat conflicting messages. But at that point, Montano was saying, we might want to, not spend this money on that. So let's go borrow money for it.
And clearly, we know now we shouldn't be listening to anything that he had to say. But I've been saying that for a while.
Right. That's right. And so the council went along with this plan and put the 3 bond initiatives up. They're separate, which is something that's different from the past. The times that the Cantrell administration has tried to do bonds for affordable housing and infrastructure, they've put them together, and then they split the money up on the back end. This time, they actually made them separate. And this is part of the problem, is that this would seek to substitute. And there was a number of problems when it was brought up, right? The idea that we would go back to bond financing just doesn't make any sense. And we wanted to get away from that because, and now that the city is being told, and that's going to be an interesting question, and we'll get to this too. But the advisory committee has been doing its work. Sally, you serve on the advisory committee.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that process, so that like the information that you're not a lay person, right? The Ashe Cultural Arts Center is the heartbeat in our cultural community. You all are deeply connected to the issues of our culture bearers, which include the housing issues. You also provide housing yourselves, so you get it. But I remember you talking about, like, you were surprised at some of the things that you learned in that process.
So, yes to everything you said. And I live in New Orleans. I live in the 7th Ward. I have lived in Treme. I have lived uptown. I've lived in Gentilly. I have neighbors. I have colleagues. Why are we acting like we don't know what is going on and what the people around us and what our folks are facing? So in addition to all of those things with Ashe, before that, I worked for NOLA BA, right? Strategic Neighborhood Development. Housing came over and over again in all of our neighborhoods and all of our work. Before that, I worked for the city with the Claiborne Corridor. Housing, right, was always the issue. And to me, it really speaks to the dislike our leaders must have for who we are as we are, to keep fighting against us in this way about our ability to be in our communities. And everybody knows the difference between how our neighborhoods are now and how they were, right? And if you wanted to protect that, if you wanted to protect the culture and you wanted to protect the fabric and what makes us us, then you would be having totally different kinds of conversations and fights. And so I'm really, struggling to understand why, why our leaders are choosing to move in this way and so blatantly.
Right.
Because all of what you said, like all of this is 75%. And in all of these initiatives have come up from the people. In the process, I go to council meetings and stuff all the time. And number one, I'm going to just say this. Being on that dais is a problem. I don't know if y'all have sat on the dais before, But for our leaders to separate themselves from us in that physical way, I don't like the way it makes me feel to look down on people. Like I don't like that feeling. And so, um, and I understand the power dynamic that's at play. And so that's one thing that just need to change. Y'all need to come down to our level because you are us and you think you higher than us and looking down on us and telling us you know better than we when we've already made a decision. And so the people that come to those meetings and that participate and like you said, the data that's presented, I would dare them and encourage them to look at how we do those meetings and to start doing their council meetings the same way.
Yeah, yeah. So, Fred, we've talked about this before. And we mentioned the fact that you and Nicole were the first guests we had on this show. And we've talked about the fact is that there's a big disconnect, right? Housing is the fundamental issue. You're a community, you're a citizen because of where you live.
Mm-hmm.
Who you get to vote for is determined by your address. And we're a community because we live together, right? There are people who miss New Orleans, as the song says, and they want to come back, and they have been prevented from coming back, and that's the crime of it, right? We have people getting pushed out every day, and people who are saying, I can't make this work, so I have to go, or people who are or the minority who seem to get the focus, people who are like, this isn't worth it to me. I'm going somewhere else. And those are the people we seem to want to attract, the folks who have the ability to make a choice and are looking down at this, as opposed to the people for whom this is vital and do want to be here, and we are making it impossible. And so, Fred, we've talked over the years, particularly with your work as a home education educator. What are our leaders? We know we talk a lot about what our leaders are missing. What are the voters missing when they go to the ballot? Why is it so hard to make the case with them to hold these people accountable?
It's the miseducation. Start from the top. And the other issue is we have had this problem. This is not a new problem. So let's not talk about it that it's a new problem.
Right.
The people we elect, in that instance, we keep voting for people who don't have our interests at heart, and we don't see it. The very politician, for all the things you all just discussed, the very politicians go to these very same 75% of the people for their vote, but they only warm up to them during the voting session, voting season. After that, they're very distant. They're very them and us. They're very hard to get to. That dais is set up. That's not by accident. That's intentional. In terms of Nicole's conversation, we have never had a sufficient amount of money funded for housing. I don't care what administration you go to.
Right.
So it's only getting worse. And what's really horrible is the people that we elect, they would rather not have to touch us and see us every day. It's unfortunate. And I can say that because we were running the reentry program, and the money didn't come, and we couldn't find the money, and we had to tell the people on there, okay, you're going to get paid every bi-weekly. Move this paperwork off this desk, get this done. If not, we're going to bring all 40 of these men and women down here. Well, they don't have to engage with those people. So it's a long, deep-seated problem. And we keep missing that because there's no need. And when you and I talk, I said, listen, we have to figure out how to get to the voters to convince them. And I think I may have said something about we don't need to use the New York Times version. We need to use the USA Today version. And it seems, though, to me, we may need to have to use something even shorter and sweeter to get the message, because we did well with 75% of the vote.
Yeah.
As one of you all said, none of the candidates got 75% of the vote.
No.
None of them.
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
So that says to you this is a real meaningful issue to the people. But for some reason, the 75% of the vote is talking on deaf ears.
Yeah.
They're talking on deaf ears because if you got a vote of 75% of the people, that's 25% less than 100.
Mhm.
And why would you then try to figure out how to go to a bond issue when the 75% of the people who vote for you have already made their decisions known?
Right.
But now you still want to play some trickery.
right.
That's
Right.
what that is. That's trickery.
Right. That's right.
And what I say to you all in the room and what I say to the listening audience, whatever we do here, however this come out, we need to make certain that we find a way to deliver to the vote, to that 75%, that we did not play games with them.
Right. Right.
All right? And this is how we lose the confidence
Of the people.
of the people, because you say one thing and you do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And what does this mean for future actions, for the future ability,
Well,
right?
because, listen, no matter how we want to turn this thing, all we have is a vote. That's how we had put housing first. And I
Right.
said, I'm in my morning ritual and I'm talking to Rudy Lombard and I'm saying, listen, Doc, what we do with this? He said, listen, Freddie, all you got is a vote. You ain't don't have nothing else. However you think about it, however you couch it,
Right.
that's all you have.
right.
But what we have to do is we have to, in this room, in the groups we run, we got to get people to understand you have to vote for people who have your self-interest.
Right.
We keep voting for people for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it may be that we got to demystify the way of delivering the message,
Right.
because we put all of these long string of words together, and some of us got it, and some of us don't. But you need to go short and sweet to the point, and we have to deliver this message where people, everyday people, the $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 income, single female head of household, they get this. They get it right away. You ain't got to say but 3 words, and that speaks right to their very condition.
That's right.
But we can't create information that's over their head.
Right.
Well,
I get accused of people saying, Fred, you're talking to me like a child. No, I'm not talking to you like a child. I want to make certain that what I said to you, you understand it's going to affect you. Now, you can take it or leave it. But those of us who know we are responsible for delivering this message, because these people we vote for, they do not have our interests.
Well, and we have to be able to craft messages for everybody wherever they are, right? And we need to lean into the best of us, which are our culture bearers and our artists, to help with that. But I'm also what we say go.
Right.
Well, if we voted for it, so how y'all gonna come back? I don't care. We shouldn't have to be your overseer and all of that. So now that we done made the vote, we done made the case to the people voted, and now you coming back. We have other stuff to do.
Right.
We need to be moving on to the next issue. We shouldn't have to still be fighting with our leaders over what the people have already
Already told them.
decided. And so, yes, we have our vote, but we also have our voice inside of some of their spaces that we about to start disrupting if they start playing with
Right.
our vote.
Right.
Because
That's right.
basically, what you've told us is our vote doesn't really matter.
Right.
So that we don't have a vote.
That's right.
All of those systems, even with the vote, you have to make them do it.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it because it's the right thing to do. It's good to put in their political speech when they're running, and they promise a lot and deliver
Right.
little.
Right.
But what they count on a large
engagement.
segment of people that have a short memory.
Yep.
Now, they got to come back around. But we got to have the memory to remember that these are the same people who screwed us and then kissed us.
That's right. Nicole, go ahead.
Well, Andronica, what I wanted you to talk about was a little bit so people can understand the difference of what's being proposed.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a couple of different stories out there
Right.
about what's happening. And we just want to be clear about that.
Right.
What was actually voted on and what would happen, and then what's being proposed. I will preface that by saying, because I don't want to talk too much about it, but we've seen this movie before. Back in 2019, we had a bond initiative that was supposed to provide, it was called the Affordable Housing and Infrastructure Bond Initiative. It was $500 million. Of that $500 million, even though affordable housing led, only 25 million of the $500 million was slated to go to affordable housing. And as of, what is today? Today is November 4th, 2025. We still haven't gotten all of the 25 million that we were supposed to get
Right.
since
Come on,
2019 through the previous bond initiative.
That's right.
So we already have a track record of knowing
That it's lies.
that
Thoughts and prayers.
that we can't depend on that.
That's right.
Also, too, 2019 was a much different financial time
Come on.
than there is right now.
And,
in
25
2025
million don't mean the same today as
It doesn't
meant.
mean the same. The ability to even float those bonds
Right.
is
It's
it's a different time now.
That's right.
People need to understand what is happening, and let's be clear about what's being said, because it's being said, "Oh no, we're going to give you way more money." No,
No.
actually, no. When the numbers break down, it's not more money, and it's not guaranteed.
Right.
The people have spoken, but I think I kind of explained it. But
No,
please
yeah, there's-
clarify. And
So yeah, so just quickly, because I think you did it perfectly. Just what the voters voted on was taking what was the equivalent of 2% of our general operating dollar, right?
Mhm.
So looking at our property taxes and some other taxes that come in, not grants or one-time money that comes in, but our predictable revenue, like the revenue that we can choose to do all these different things with. Taking that money and taking 2% of that and putting that to the side. Last year, that would have been the equivalent of $17 million. And when I say last year, when they started the revenue estimating in the summer for 2025, it was about $17 million. This year, the revenues are off. They're going to be lower, right? They know that the estimates that they had last year were too rosy. And so they've made some adjustments. There's less money going to be coming in next year. They know that. And so the estimates are about $14 million, right? About that. And so what would happen with that $14 million, what the voters signed off on, was a plan that would say spending some of that money on an emergency fund. So that, because we time and time again, right? Whenever from COVID to Ida to Katrina, this city still does not do a good job. That's the nicest way I can put it. At responding to the housing crisis, that's just a catastrophe, right? We still don't do that really well. We should have been able to. When you think about just the recent disasters of this year, the first day of the year, the terror attack. What was our
Look
response
what
to
Jamaica
that?
did. Did you see what Jamaica did?
No.
They are the first country to finance their own disaster recovery bond, and so they're calling it in after this hurricane, and they have all the money they need to fix stuff.
Yeah, they put money.
that would be a great bond initiative.
That would be a great.
That's what
that
I'm
would
saying.
be
If
a
y'all want
great
to do
bond.
something,
Yeah,
if you
put something aside. I mean, and what ended up happening after the terror attack was the governor activated an emergency response plan to round up the homeless,
and spend
all in time for the Super Bowl. $17 million. $17 million to run them. So the state did not get back. They assumed that they would get reimbursed for those dollars. The extraordinary security measures that they took in response to the terror attack, the federal government didn't reimburse for all of those things. So instead of counting on that kind of money, we're supposed to just use our dollars. Right? Dollars that we have the equivalent of those dollars, and those dollars in particular are first to be used. What they want the voters to do is allow us to do the bonds. And another problem with the bonds is the emergency fund cannot be covered by bond financing. These are capital bonds. All they can do is build stuff. So putting money aside, being smart. The thing that don't we tell poor people all the time, you need to learn to save, you need to put money on the side. And here we are, the voters said, right back at you. You need to put some money on the side for us. So when something happens, you don't go, oh, we don't have anything, sorry. And again, thinking about for the listening audience, thinking about things like the New Orleans East tornado from a few years ago, these small level events, the flooding events that don't rise to the
Right.
level of a state disaster, a national disaster, but are absolutely a disaster in the lives of the
In the
people
lives
of
of the
New
people.
Orleans.
Yep.
And if we had our own emergency fund that we controlled, we could decide, our leaders could decide to, hey, let's help the folks instead of go begging, right? Instead of going out there and hoping, doing can shakes and things like that to help people who have been absolutely, their lives have been upended. So the bond won't pay for that. We also, one of the things that we found with doing the research to talk about the trust fund, Nicole, you talked about the fact that people could not bear to continue to pay these high taxes. So they took the opportunity to give themselves a little bit of relief. We also heard that they did not trust this mayor and the city council to manage the money. We heard that 2.5 years ago. It did not get any better. And what they said was, we want to see a process that has people who are good at this, distributing this money. Community wants to see that engagement, and they want to see how the money is moving. So we also are gonna hire administrators to deploy the money and to make sure that we get the money out as quickly as possible. The bond financing can't pay for that. So you would you would either have an unfunded mandate, or the city would have to put up those dollars.
And why wouldn't the bond, tell everybody why the bond financing wouldn't be able to pay for that? What are some of the restrictions around the bond
It's
financing?
really simple. You can only invest in capital expenditures. The understanding is when cities borrow this kind of money, they have their own staff who is going to be getting paid from other sources to manage this money, right? And that's another really clear point about kind of violating communities' will. Community is, y'all not good at managing housing money. We know that already. We already know you're not good at managing housing money. And just to be clear, nobody on this call, nobody on this side of the aisle is going to get paid any of that money, lest anybody
No.
because, and let's be fair, to the community who might think that, right? I'm not. Let's talk about the fact that people do queue up for these opportunities and grift and see it as a form of patronage.
Well, but that's why I like the process that we've set up with the committee, with the Housing Trust Fund, because it prevents all of that.
It should.
Everything is, well, it should, right? Like everything is kind of very much explicit, transparent.
That's right.
You can see who's doing what, and let's be real about the fact that New Orleans is a small place, and that there are only a certain amount of people doing certain things. Right. So at the same time, you don't want to exclude people who are working hard on the issue from being able to, do good and do well.
Right.
But that should be apparent, explicit, and people should be able to ask questions and have all of that be clear. Right.
That's right.
Because I don't think, in my opinion, that's a conflict for people who come, who participate in the stuff. Because we have amazing minds and amazing service providers who participate, right?
But the bonds don't work like
Yeah.
that. The bonds don't want to see that. The bonds want, hey, don't you have people to do this? We're going to let you borrow money to do that. Nicole?
From a timing perspective, Andronica, when will we be able to see just from the bond?
And that's the big one. So these bonds, in theory, could be floated as soon as they're authorized. But the persons who make that decision don't live in New Orleans Parish. They are all members of the Louisiana State Bond Commission, who are all appointed by Governor Jeff Landry.
Out of here.
He's already said he wasn't.
He already
gonna approve
said.
the bonds.
Well, he didn't want to approve the emergency bonds unless he could take over the city.
But even more so, ladies and listening audience, it's unfair to switch and not confirm with the 75% of the voters. That's not what the voters voted for.
They didn't vote for Jeff Landry to decide whether or not when they would get their money.
And they didn't vote for the city administrators to say one thing that they voted on. They went in the vote and pressed the button for that. Now you're gonna change it because you don't think that they're gonna pay attention. And the other thing, Andronica, the listening audience may need to hear is that the process of, because they hear budget cut, budget cut, budget cut.
Mhm.
Right.
So how does that affect
Mm.
this 2%? And the fact that the people who are on these committees are not paid people,
Right.
right?
Right.
You all sit on those committees. Those people are not paid to do that.
Right.
But you are people who are boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You know who's doing the work. You got a process for paying people, and you're gonna make sure that the money go as intended.
Right.
This is why in the survey they didn't
Mhm.
want the city to
Mhm.
handle it.
That's
Right,
right.
because look at the people who are handling it and look at their track record. Look
Right.
at the things that they've done and they do. I mean,
No.
Yeah. No.
mm,
So at best and at worst, this is a conversation for the 75% of the people who vote, because we owe you,
Right.
right? We owe you the responsibility to give you a blow by blow by blow.
that's right.
You might not like it, but we're gonna give it to you. The politicians may not like
Yeah.
it, but we going with you, because guess what? 4 years and 8 years gonna come and go.
Right.
You still gonna be voting.
Hopefully, you're gonna still be
Yeah.
here.
Well, if not you,
Hopefully,
if
if
not
there's a
you,
here
your
to be.
offspring.
Yes, that's
But
right.
somebody,
that's right.
right.
somebody's gonna be here,
That's right.
and these conversations are gonna be held about. It's a goddamn shame the way they try to bait and switch after we voted for it.
Right. That's right.
And then you know what it takes to get that kind of a
Percentage.
effort and
Right.
yeah.
Yes.
That was a lot
Let
of
me
hard
let me
work.
reiterate this. I can't remember an election in my soon to be 72 years where anybody got 75% of the vote.
Yeah. Or any
in a
issue.
positive,
Right.
or in a positive way, because
Yeah.
we've said no,
Yeah. Well,
or hell no,
Without-
in
yeah.
some
without it
instances.
being stolen.
Right.
Without it being stolen.
Well, we've said hell no, like for example, the sheriff last year, her bond initiative
Oh, yeah.
fell flat. 92%. Yeah, but I think it is harder to get people to say yes,
Yes.
to do things.
It's particularly money.
Right, exactly. And we did see similar numbers, if not slightly increased numbers, on the other ballot initiatives last year that were around the rights, the Bill of Rights, right? The Citizens Bill of Rights. They got about 80%. The difference is that those are aspirational. They don't actually they set the stage for a next conversation. This
Mhm.
was no, take our money, and
Mhm.
But-
it was extraordinarily
But
Yeah.
Andronica and listening audience, aside from safety and food, housing
Housing.
is essential.
That's right. That's right.
You can't ask me to vote for you, and then you don't give a goddamn about the condition I live in,
Right.
whether it's rental or home ownership.
Right.
Listen, we need money in this spectrum for every aspect of this, especially code enforcement.
Right.
Especially code enforcement, because right now rent is too damn high, and the property is too damn raggedy, and there's nobody enforcing it, which creates poverty and slum.
Right.
Yeah, they only enforcing it when somebody wants your property. But also, this is the other thing. Our council has had no problem, and to Fred's point, over many administrations, making all kinds of money available and exceptions for developers of big projects and luxury properties
Right.
and all of these kinds of things.
Right.
This little $14 million that they are begrudging us,
Right.
this little 2% that they are begrudging us, when they have no problem giving Shell 20-year pilots and, multinational, multi-billion corporations who are experiencing record
Right. Rent gets to be subsidized.
they get to be subsidized and they get to give jobs to people not from here,
Or
and
not.
you cannot give the voters our little measly, and I'm gonna say it's measly.
That's right.
I'm
That's right.
sorry.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
not enough.
It's not enough.
And it's the least you could do.
Right.
And we had to drag it out of you by a ballot initiative.
Right.
That's not easy.
Right. That's right. That's right. It's no. I mean, and I think that's also part of community's frustration, and frankly, I think a lot of people are shocked that we're here. There's a slight, just we can't believe it, right? That we're here, especially given what's happening at the federal and state level.
No, right. You
Right,
know
like,
how they
we're-
coming for us.
Right, yeah, we see these issues at the federal and state level, and it's the local level that's supposed to be different.
'Cause that's where we're supposed to have some
we're having
influence.
we
and
have more
power.
influence,
With
more
our vote.
power. Yeah,
That's what they told us.
and then it's like, oh no, you're not like us. Yeah, like that's yeah. I mean, like that's what they told us. That's what we heard people say, that in this last election cycle was that they understood their role to stand between the people of this city and Jeff Landry and the people of this city and Donald Trump.
Defend the water.
Defend New Orleans.
Andrenika, for the listening audience, I'd like for you to speak about the report card,
Mhm.
please.
So, as Fred talked about the fact that, here with Housing NOLA, we do an annual report card. We've closed out the current 10-year plan. We did our last report card. And for the 7th year in a row, it's another F. And that F means that the city is failing to meet the needs of the people of New Orleans when it comes to implementing, to Sally's point and to Nicole's point, some really basic initiatives to make things better. Fred, you talked about code enforcement, our Healthy Homes initiative, another policy that we fought hard for. We've been talking about a rental registry and having rental standards since before Katrina, right? Before Katrina, M. Tamisi St. Julian,
Who is
former
we?
the city, like everybody, like, well, but me, I've been a part of the conversations. Y'all have been a part of these conversations. Renters, community members, leaders have been a part of these conversations for decades. Because one of the things that happens is you'll invariably get someone call in or catch us out in the street and talk about how trashy renters are, how they're a problem in their community, and we have to talk about the fact that someone owns that property and they have a responsibility, and that responsibility is not just to take money off that person and not care about what condition they're in. It is to provide them with a safe, decent home. They have a contract.
Affordable.
And it should be affordable. It should be affordable. And so for years we've been talking about this. About 10 years ago, we thought we saw a little. I mean, it was 10 years ago. We saw a little, before more than 10 years ago, actually. We saw a little bit of opportunity. Then Mayor Mitch Landrieu actually brought in some national folks, because we love doing that. It's bringing in some national folks.
Right.
And that's one of the points that why I bring this up, Fred, is to talk about the report card, is what our leaders have done over the years is, let's bring in an expert to study it. Let's bring in an expert to determine it. And with things like Healthy Homes, we realized that we were the best experts. Not that we couldn't use some help.
Well, it is not like they listen anyway to when they do get the experts.
Well, but the definition of an expert is somebody that's 3 to 5 miles outside your city.
That's at least.
They don't respect the brain trust that's already
right.
here, that's doing the work, that's delivered the work, that have the numbers, that have the reputation of delivering. But be that as it may, the report card tells us the politicians who voted for housing,
Right.
and what their initiative is. And for the listening audience, we make small increments, but we need to make much huger increments.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure that we be very, very open and expressive with the 75%,
Right.
because we're going to have to fight this again. It's kind of like all my life.
I
had
had
to
to
fight.
fight.
And it's really, really morally disgusting, because we're not fighting about some exotic pleasures.
Right.
We fighting about some essential, basic, everyday living where people live at.
Right. That's right.
Where you live at, where your child take a bath at, where your child eat breakfast at, what toilet they sit on, shapes and mold their mindset and their condition as to how they see themselves,
Right.
and how they see other people.
Well, so it has been over 50 minutes so far. So
Then we'll get out of here.
we're gonna have to start needing nobody. We had a couple people call in, but it didn't click. So we want to wrap this up but there's a couple things before we wrap up. We got about 10 more minutes. We just want to make sure we wrap up and get you all to close out on some things. So number one, there's two big things happening in the next 2 days. Well, three things. So early voting started on Saturday. Last Saturday. It ends this Saturday. If you're gonna early vote and vote no on Proposition 1 to stop the okey doke, to stop the switch. Number two, tomorrow is Housing Day during budget.
What about the other propositions?
Propositions 2 and 3, we are in favor of. Those are bond initiatives to fund drainage and other large-scale infrastructure. We want to see those investments made.
And how many propositions are there total?
There are three. There are three propositions and 2 home rule charter amendments.
And where we stand on the home rule charter?
Home rule charter is they want to change the timing on the master plan. We were in favor of that. Not the big dates. It's about the fact that they want to spend 30 instead of 30 days, 45 days getting comments from community.
Good.
So that's good. And then the next one is the city attorney being able to let the council hire or fire or have a say so in firing or hiring of the city or firing in the city attorney. Part of the Kabuki theater that we've been, while they fail to ask good questions about the budget, they love getting into fights with the mayor, the city attorney, and insinuating that the city attorney was overly interested in the mayor's position.
So where we fall at?
We actually aren't taking a position on that one. I mean, like, my opinion is no. I think
so we're neutral on it.
I think personally no, but yeah, we're officially neutral on it. Yes. But I would say I'm not gonna vote for it.
Well, the reason I'm asking because when people get in that
the ballot,
treating,
yes,
they ain't got time to read all that, and
it don't make a lot of sense to some people.
And then they don't. Some of us don't understand it, and then if you like me, you forget to bring your glasses in. You be like, "What the hell? I can't see all this little bitty font anyway."
No on one. We got to keep the message.
Yeah.
And
yes, on 2 and 3.
what is our method for getting the message out to the voters about no on one?
So,
is there any other? They got some runoffs. Am I right?
yes, then
How
they're
these
also
people squared up in terms of favorable or unfavorable for housing?
right. Our partners at the Greater New Orleans Housing Alliance issued their candidate scorecard, and of the 2 races left for council matter districts is Council District A, Council District E. Amy McCarron got the higher grade in District A, and Cindy Nguyen got the higher grade in District E.
And you get the higher grade because you were more favorable to housing.
And yes, that you came in, you completed the questionnaire, made commitments that we can hold you to, as well as came in and had a frank conversation with community members.
And what are those names again?
Cindy Nguyen in District E and Amy McCarron in District A.
And District E is OT is O's.
Yes, that's
And
Councilmember
District-
Thomas's.
And District A
is Councilmember Jeruso. So
Okay.
these are 2 incredibly
so
powerful.
So listening audience, this is the people who were in favor of voting for more action and more resources in housing.
That's right. That's right.
Remember that when you go inside that curtain.
Thank you for it.
But all right, so and to that point, what is this about removing Ganoha from what?
Well, we weren't going to talk about that today, but we can. So, Councilmember Jamarel has, because we've been told, because he is not in favor of, he does not like the fact that we are campaigning, that the Greater New Orleans Housing Alliance is campaigning against Prop 1, that he is going to try to remove the Greater New Orleans Housing Alliance from the advisory committee.
Oh, I bet he won't.
Well, that he's introduced.
Wait. Slow up. Remove the greater
From the
New
housing
Orleans-
trust.
from the
fund?
advisory committee.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
Yes.
Oh no.
So we got King.
So you gonna remove the
So-
people?
So we have Kings.
Well, he's introduced an ordinance, and they're all going to have to vote on it.
When is that going on?
Thursday. That's going to be Thursday.
Dang, I'm be out of time. Okay, we have some people there.
That'll be Thursday.
A listening audience, as Barbara Fred said, we need y'all at council chambers on Thursday.
Or you can just call the
Or
council.
call your council
You
member.
start
You start now.
council
Call.
member now
Start
and
calling them.
say- Yeah.
And tell them we're not playing that.
He on his way out.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
Jeruso?
No,
No,
Morrell.
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 We don't care who it is.
Yeah, it don't matter, but I understand now.
Yeah.
After he didn't got the vote, now
Yeah,
you
now
want
you-
to talk SHIT.
Mm-hmm.
I see how that's working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he feel like he's safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we don't know what he feel like. But what we know
Yeah.
is that we're not removing the people's housing organization from the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee. We know that.
Yeah, that's asinine.
So that's on
That's
Thursday.
asinine.
That's on Thursday, and then tomorrow.
Politics.
Well, and honestly, I think Thursday's going to be the big day because one of the things I got texted was I missed this story earlier. Tomorrow is supposed to be housing day during the budget, but guess what else is happening? The mayor-elect, the Councilmember Morrell, and Councilmember Geruso are going back to the state to plead for money, and with the state. So while the budget hearing is supposed to start at 9:30 tomorrow, it should have been a housing day. It doesn't sound like 3 of the key council members are going to be there the entire day, if at all.
And
So
what comes out of a housing day?
So what's supposed to happen tomorrow, what was supposed to happen, and we've gotten some changes to this, unfortunately. What was supposed to happen was the council was supposed to hear from the Louisiana Housing Corporation, the Housing Authority, the administrators of the trust fund, and to talk about what 2026 would look like from a housing
So
perspective.
they need to reschedule.
And well, no, they came in and said, the presentations are going to be truncated. The state agencies and the federally funded agencies are only going to be having 2 minutes to speak. And while the council then deliberates on what investments they want to make inside of housing. I mean, and again, it's really shocking.
But how are they going to do that with 3 of the people not there?
But this is not new.
No, it's not new.
This is
It's
not
not
new.
new. It's not
This is the old playbook.
Correct.
Whenever there's an issue, it's like the school system. Whenever there's a problem with money, the first thing they cut is the music, and they cut the physical fitness.
Right.
In this instance, they always will put housing on the back burner.
Put housing last. Yeah.
They put it on the back burner.
Right. That's right.
And that's because they don't have respect for the people who voted for them.
Right.
And this is why I come in saying the listening audience and all of us who are voters, we got to be more sober about who we voting for, and stop voting for people because you like them, or you like what they got on, or you like their daddy, or you like their mama. No, if they don't have your interest, and if you don't know, call Gano High. Gano, I'll put you in touch and tell you who's voting and who's not, and who is trying to bring resources to housing.
Right.
Because housing affects each and every one of us.
That's
all
right.
day long.
All day, every day. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for joining us today. This
Thank
was
y'all
so
for letting
great.
me come.
So we
Thank
got
you,
like this.
listening audience.
Yeah, we want to do this like this. I like this podcast, like feel like this. That's why I wanted y'all in person because I knew
Yeah.
this would be.
And y'all
this
let me sit in the
energy.
tall
But we
chair.
need-
Now I might not like the days,
we
but I
need
do
to
like
get
a
some
tall
call-ins.
chair.
We need some call-ins.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
so
we
We need
do.
some engagement here.
Yes, that's right. So thank you all so much for joining us. Asali Ecclesiastes from Ashe Cultural Arts Center, Nicole Barnes with Jericho Road Episcopal Housing Initiatives, and Fred Johnson with the Neighborhood Development Foundation. Thank you all for being routine contributors and really anchors inside of the work, inside of community. We will be back next week on Put Housing First. I'm your host, Andrenica Morris. Y'all take care of each other out
Thank
there.
you, Andrenica.
And yourself.